Okay, I've knit the length of the foot that's required, and now I'm ready for one of the last steps, the toe. We're going to make the toe shape with decreases. And the One Sock Guidebook gives you several options for toe decreases. We're going to stick with the one in the pattern, the spiral decrease. My stitches were already arranged so that half were over the first part of my needle and the second half were over the second part of my needle, so it's evenly distributed already. But I need to make 4 decreases every decrease round, so I've added in a couple of stitch markers here. You may need to rearrange some of your stitches on your needles depending if you're making a different number of decreases every round. Whatever you need to do to make it easy, do that. It's worth that little bit of extra effort. So my decrease round is going to look like this. I'm going to knit across until I have 2 stitches left before my marker. I'm going to knit those 2 together. And then I'm going to treat the end of the round, or the end of the row, sort of like another bit of reminder for my decrease. So I'm going to knit across to 2 stitches before that end and knit those 2 together. And then I do the same thing on the other side. I knit across to 2 stitches before my marker, knit those 2 together, knit across again until the almost the end of the round. With my last 2 stitches, I'm going to knit those 2 together, and that will give me 4 evenly spaced decreases. Again, you may have more or fewer in your size of sock. Go ahead, follow the instructions for that, work your first decrease round, and then it's just a matter of following the instructions again for knitting a plain round, alternating that with your decrease round until you get to the correct number of stitches. And that'll be 6 or 8 stitches at the very end that we're going to meet up again when we have that number. So I'm gonna do my decreases and be right back. I'm down to my last 8 stitches and I am ready to cut the yarn and draw it through my live stitches to finish. So cut your yarn with enough tail to easily maneuver around those stitches. You don't want to do it too short. So I'll put that aside, and here I have a dull needle which I'm going to thread my tail through. And then I'm just going to sort of transfer those stitches across and then pull the tail through. And I do that on the other side as well. Put my needle aside and pull that through. And then continue pulling to close the end there. Now I have 2 ends to weave in, and in fact I'm going to use a sharp needle to do that. If you use a sharp needle to go through those live stitches, you can catch them, and sometimes that's a little awkward. So I'm going to swap out for a nice pointy needle, and again thread it through. And then I'm going to flip that to the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and find the space where my thread is coming out and then go sort of in to that space and flip my sock around here. And I'm going to do that because I want to weave this end into the wrong side. So once I've done that, I'm going to arrange my fabric a little bit, and I'm going to go through and I sort of go through like half of the back of these stitches. And I do that because it adds a little bit of friction, and we don't want to see it from the right side. So I have a length there, maybe an inch, a couple of centimeters, and I pull it through, and then I change direction and give it a little zigzag And I'm working this into the sole of the foot, so they'll be walking on this bit and sort of felting it in. Give that another little section there. And then for me, that's enough. I've never had my ends pop out from there. This is a yarn with texture, and I leave a little bit of an end there. And I just, I'm going to let that fluff out and felt in a little bit like that. And I'm going to weave in the end at the cuff here, and that's it. Then I have a finished sock. And all that needs doing now is maybe putting it in the washing machine. If you're using Amble yarn, Amble is an easy wash sock, so you can put this in the washing machine on a gentle cycle, and that will really firm up the stitches and make it look its best. If you're using a yarn that is not an easy wash, then certainly don't put it in the washing machine. Wash it by hand and then just lay it out flat to dry, and it will be ready to wear and be loved for years to come. And that's it. You've knit your first sock. Well done and congratulations, and hopefully this will be the beginning of many socks. Once you start, you may find that they are some of the most satisfying things to knit. And hopefully I will see you back here again for another project, but it's quite an accomplishment to finish these socks, and all the techniques and all the engineering that goes into a sock is very useful in every other kind of knitting as well, in sweaters, in shawls. There are a lot of techniques in this little space. And if this was your first sock, make sure you do not give in to the temptation to wait to cast on your second sock. Do it right away and get that second sock so that you have a pair. One sock is not particularly useful, so make sure you don't give in to second sock syndrome. Get on that second sock, and happy knitting!